The employees at the Hibulb Cultural Center and Natural History Preserve are dedicated to their jobs and love working here. Perhaps no one more so than Joy Lacy, who works in collections. The Hibulb Cultural Center stands in the very place Joy grew up. This was her childhood home. After retiring from a career with the BIA, Joy literally came home to work in historical records for Tulalip. Here she has been taking in donations and entering them into archives for the past 20 years, where they will be preserved for future generations. Today we are talking to Joy Lacy about her life growing up at Tulalip, her family, and her 2 careers. Hi, welcome to Hibulb Conversations. I'm Mytyl Hernandez, and today we're here with Joy Lacy. Welcome to the show, Joy.
Thank you.
You grew up in this area, right?
Yes, I did. Our house was right here where the museum sits now.
And what was the area like at that time?
There was only 3 houses, the one on the corner and the Wester house and then the Balaam house and then our house.
And besides your family members, who were your friends?
The Freiberg boys, they used to live in the house down the road with their grandma Minerva.
I'm sure that the area looks very different now. Can you tell us a little bit about the landscape?
There was just mostly all trees all around and there was a gravel road and not too many cars because my Aunt Willa lived down at Mission Beach, and we used to have to walk down and get her and then come back to town, walk back to town, and then if we was lucky we caught my uncle and he'd give us a ride back home. But you wouldn't meet, there's just no cars.
It was very quiet.
Quiet,
Was there anything exciting that ever happened?
No.
No?
No, we just mostly stayed home and played.
Joy, can you tell us a little bit about your grandparents?
My grandma was Mary. I can't remember her husband's name. And my mom's dad was William Pratt. He was from Suquamish. And Josephine Dunbar was my grandma, on my mom's side.
Okay. You never got a chance to meet them?
No, they both died young. So they died before I was born.
Joy, will you tell us about your parents? What were their names?
My dad was George Culver Jones Sr., and he was born up in the Monroe area. And my mom was Luella Pratt, and she was born in Suquamish.
And what were the occupations of your parents?
My dad was a carpenter and a logger, and my mom just stayed home and watched us kids.
Okay. And how many children were in your family?
We had 18.
Where were you in the lineup?
10.
Number 10? Generally speaking, what was your childhood like?
I guess we just played outside a lot because we didn't have the toys they have nowadays, so we played outside.
You went to school in Marysville.
Marysville,
Which schools did you go to?
Back then they used to have 3 schools together, and you'd just go from the elementary to the middle school and then to the high school. And I graduated from the Marysville High School in 1957.
1957. I'm sure Marysville looks a lot different now than it did when you were a child.
Just the only thing that was there is probably what's right around 4th Street. All the businesses right in there. That's about all that was there. So
Wow.
It was pretty small.
What was it like going to school in Marysville at that time?
I guess in grade school it was all okay, but when you got in the higher grades, some of the kids were, kind of prejudiced. But I had some friends that were non-native.
Was there bus service at that time?
Yeah, the bus came out here and picked us up on this road right here.
Were there any other extracurricular activities you were involved in?
I was in chorus, and I liked that.
And what was your first job?
I was a clerk typist at the Everett Employment Office.
How did you come about that job?
I had a friend that worked there, and she told me about it, so I went over and was hired.
Did you work there long?
No, only about a year.
Okay. What are some of the other jobs you had?
I worked for the tribe as the clerk, tribal clerk, for I think about a year, and then I went to work for the bureau for 27 years. And I think the job I liked best there was I was the IM teller. I wrote the checks for all the people that had like timber money and lease money. They used to call me the money lady.
How long did you do that?
I think I was in that job for about 17 years.
Okay. So you had multiple jobs when you were with the BIA?
Yeah, I did. I worked in forestry and social services and the teller job.
Okay. The teller was your favorite?
Yeah, the teller was my favorite.
Yeah, you liked your nickname. Can you tell me a little bit about your husband?
Or I went down to San Diego to babysit for Debbie Simpson. Yeah, and that's where I met him. He was Glenn's best friend, Glenn Simpson's best friend. And I think he joined the Navy when he was 17.
He was stationed in San Diego?
In San Diego,
What year did you get married?
1957.
What was your wedding like?
We just went to the Justice of the Peace, Dawn, Glenn, and Lacy and I.
Okay. How long had you been dating?
3 months.
Okay.
Pretty short.
Was there a honeymoon? No.
No money. No.
And how long were you married?
53 years.
53 years. Will you tell me a little bit about your family, your children?
Shelley's my oldest one, and then Cecile, Ada Lacy was my second, and then Cecil Lacy Jr. is my third child.
This has all been really interesting. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. We're back with Hibulb Conversations. We're here with Joy Lacy. What year did you start working with the tribe?
I was pregnant with Cece, so it would have been 63.
And who was the leadership at that time?
Wayne was my boss, Wayne Williams.
What was it like working with him?
He was a really good boss. He explained things to you, and then I think it seems like Sub was still there then too. I think Wayne was under Sub.
Do you remember much about working with Sub?
I didn't really work with him because Wayne worked with him, and Wayne was my boss. So, but he was a really nice guy, and was really smart. I took over for Bernice Williams. She used to work in that job, and then I came in after her. But I think I only lasted about a year, and then I went to work for the bureau.
Okay.
Because they would pay me $2 instead of $1.99. 2 whole cents, but
Yeah,
it made a difference.
I'm sure it did.
When I first started, I had a lady from Colville, Bernadine Novotny. She was my boss. And then I think she was my boss for maybe 4 years. And then she moved on to Portland to get a higher paying job. And then I moved into her job.
Is there anything you can tell us about that work?
I know we used to handle a lot of money because there was the Quinaults had 2 logging units, Crane Creek and the Quinault, and probably every month we'd probably handle about $1 million worth of handed out that much money to the people that live over there.
What year was that?
It was in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money for
That's
that
a lot
time.
of money, yeah. But the timber was, the price was way up there, so I didn't ever actually handle any cash. It was all checks.
Did you have a car? So you just drove to work every day?
Ginny Ginny and Dawn worked over at the bureau too, so we kind of carpooled. And then later on, Maxine worked over there, so Dawn quit, and then Maxine, Ginny, and I probably rode together for about 10 years.
I bet that was fun.
Yeah, I think at one time there's probably maybe about 20 Tulalips working at the bureau.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow. I bet it was fun carpooling with your sisters and Maxine.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Did you guys ever do anything after work, or?
Mm-mm.
No.
Maxine would just drop us off by the side of the road. We have to hop on. That shows you how much traffic there was back then.
Right.
When she could hop, we just hop out of the car right on the road.
Mm-hmm. You worked at the BIA for 27 years, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you want to tell us about your time there? I know at one point it was overrun. Can you tell us about that?
Was it the AIM, I think, that came in? And they told us they were coming, so we had to lock everything down, and they just told us to leave the building. And so I can't remember how long we had to stay out, but they just took over the whole building. I used to keep candy, cookies, and all stuff all over my desk, and even little things, and they just took everything.
Wow.
And just made a mess.
And how long did that take place?
I think they were in there 2, 3, 4 days, something like that.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
And what did you do during that time?
Just stayed home because they told us not to come back.
Wow.
Not to come back and confront them because they didn't know what would happen.
Mm-hmm. And after 27 years, why did you decide to retire?
Because at that time the Department of the Interior offered a $10,000 bonus for people to retire because they had too many employees, I guess.
Wow.
So there were three of us that took them up on it, and I retired.
You said that your starting salary with the BIA was about $2 an hour?
$2 an hour, yes.
What was your ending salary?
I think it was $25 and something.
Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty
Yeah.
good after.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it is. It was. Because I was a GS9, so.
Did you go right back to work?
I took 3 months off.
Did you do anything fun?
No, I just stayed home and cleaned house and relaxed, enjoyed myself.
And then you started working with the tribe again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went back to work.
And what did you do?
I worked in social services.
What did you do in social services?
At that time, they handled all the tribal loans, and people came in for help, and I paid people's electric bills.
How long did you do that?
I think only about 6 months or so.
And then you started working with cultural resources?
Yes, I started working with cultural resources.
And who was in the department at that time?
Hank Gobin was the manager, and I think Inez was here, and Toby Langen, let's see, Teresa Slagar.
Mm-hmm. At that time, was it still the plan to build a museum?
Yes, we was in the old trailer that sat right here.
Were you getting any unique or notable donations at that time?
They had one room where they just stuffed everything into it like it was a great big closet, and they just put everything right in there. They had baskets and just all different kind of artifacts, but it wasn't put in any order. It was just stuffed in there because they didn't have a curator.
Right. What was it like working with Hank?
I really enjoyed working with him because he's the type of boss that if you did your job, he just let you do it. And if you did something wrong, well, he'd tell you, but, he didn't. I really enjoyed working with him.
I appreciated that about Hank, too.
Yeah.
How long did you work with Hank?
Until he passed, from 95 until he passed. I can't remember what year it was.
Yeah. And you always did historic records?
I've always worked in historical records.
And what would you do with things that came in then?
When I first started, they just had a book, and you just wrote down what came in, and then put it in that room until we got over here and got the the cabinets, and then you could put in the past perfect system where you could put the numbers on them and, you know, put them where they belong in a more safe place.
Instead of the closet?
Instead of the closet, stacked on top of each other.
I bet that was a big change.
Really big change.
Was there a system you preferred?
No, I think that the past perfect system is really good because you can take a picture of it and, you know, put a number on it, and then you know, and just look on the machine and you can see it.
Thank you again for being here with us, Joy. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back with more Hibulb conversations. Welcome back to Hibulb Conversations. We're here with Joy Lacy. The museum wasn't actually opened until 2011, but the project started in the 90s, right?
But before I came, they were having meetings.
That's why we call it the 30-year dream.
Yeah.
And so in the days where they were just meeting on the museum, who would attend those meetings?
I never did go to any, but I saw the minutes on them, and I think it would be Hank Gobin, Jerry Jones, Teresa Slager, and Joe Gobin, and the board, of course.
Did Jerry work here at that time?
Yes, he did. He was the master carver.
Was he the only master carver?
Yeah, he was the only one.
And what kind of stuff would he do?
He had classes where he'd show you how to make drums, and then he had paddles, and where he showed us how to do it was, do you remember that old shed that was down in front of Ace Wester's? That's where we had our class, and he showed us how to. He gave us a piece of wood, probably about this big, and then we had to carve it down, but we couldn't use no, you know, tools like they do now. We had to do it by hand.
Oh, wow.
He said we had to learn how to do it right. So, and that's the paddle I have on my desk right now.
Oh, wow.
And when I went on the canoe journey in 1997, I took my paddle with me and pulled with that.
That's amazing. You did it all by hand.
All by hand.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm pretty proud of it.
I would be. Yeah, I bet it was great working with Jerry.
Yeah, it was.
At that time, the language department was here as well, right?
Yes, they were.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yep. Toby Langan was the master teacher, and I'm trying to think of who the teachers were. I think Lois Henry was one of them. Yeah, and my daughter Shelley was one of the teachers, and I think Michelle.
And where would they teach?
Down at the Montessori.
Okay.
And the school and Tulalip School.
Was there a lot of community support for our language department at that time?
Seems like there was, because I think people want to bring the language back. Just, I'm 77 and I can't speak it, so.
That was going to be my next question.
No, I can't speak it.
Do you remember your parents speaking it?
Yes. When they didn't want us to know something, they had to speak it.
So you don't understand that much of it either?
No. I took I think a semester of it, but
Didn't
it
stick?
was hard. No, it didn't stick.
It is hard. It's very hard. What is your favorite thing about working for the tribe?
I guess it's just a relaxing job I like to do, and I like working with old things, and because if they donate newspapers and stuff, well, you get to look at the history of the tribe, and I find that really interesting.
Yeah. Do you have any hobbies?
I like to make baskets.
And you do a basket class with
Yeah,
elders, right?
I do a basket class with seniors and elders on Tuesday.
I bet that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been doing that?
Gosh, maybe since '96, I think.
Wow.
Because Inez and I started it, or she started it, and then I went with her, and then she quit, and then so I just kept going. So,
You should have some pretty advanced weavers by now.
mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for younger generations?
I think my advice to them was to get your education, because the tribe pays for everything, so you might as well take advantage of it, and live a good life and enjoy it while you're here, because you never know.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here with us. I've had a lot of fun interviewing you today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for watching Hibulb Conversations. I'm Mytyl Hernandez. Until next time.